Everybody, welcome to Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, and it is 4:01. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Chairperson Patty Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair Swat Obaid. Here. Alderman Carl Franco.
Here.
Alderman Mike Seville.
Here.
Alderman Bill Donnell.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, 25-0309, the approval of the minutes from the Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee meeting held on April 9th, 2025.
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Seville. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That moves forward, voice vote. Clerk, do we have anyone here for public comment?
No, we do not.
Thank you. First item on our agenda, we're going to skip down to the actual second item on the agenda and work our way down and come back to the first item last. So the first item is 25-0300, a resolution authorizing the execution of an airport maintenance operation agreement with Airfield Maintenance Service, LLC, for an initial 5-year term with an automatic 5-year renewal upon mutual consent by both parties. Do we have a presentation here?
Good afternoon, everyone. Steve Andrus with the Airport Division. Really, I don't have a presentation. This is very straightforward. This is essentially a continuation or renewal of a contract with Airfield Maintenance Services. In my write-up, you may have noticed that John Brose is the owner of that company, and John had worked with Wolf Maintenance, who had been out there at the airport doing the same thing he was there probably 20-some years, and Wolf has done it he passed away unfortunately, but he had been out there probably another 25 years prior to that. So John is very well versed in performing those duties. He's well liked by the staff, he's well liked by our tenants, and I can't say anything but good things about their company. They're very organized and they are very efficient. So unless you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer anything that you might ask me, but
Questions?
it's pretty straightforward.
Alderman Franco.
Yeah, so it's $424,000 a year.
Correct.
So I would suggest that we put that in the subject title because I had to search for it in the actual contract because we're going to want to know about that. The other question I have is, so we're going 424 for the new contract. What were we paying them per year up to this point?
So there is, say
So
that
our
again.
previous, because we've had them, so we must have been paying X amount of dollars per year.
Right.
Right.
So there's a cap, a 4% cap on their, which is tied to the CPI. So does that answer the question or
No.
no? Okay,
So
Try again.
so we got a number of 424.
correct.
Do we have a number for the previous year, a dollar amount?
We do. I don't know what that is, but I can tell you that 424 is essentially, because this contract starts next year.
Right.
It essentially is a 4% increase to their current contract.
Okay.
Does that
So-
answer?
Well, yeah, now it does. But
Okay.
so I would suggest too that we could get what we were paying them before, say it's a 4% increase to 424, as opposed to putting it in the, we could look in the contract, but it's just easier when we read it in the subject matter thing. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess I would defer to the committee how they want that presented. Do you want that in the body of the,
Yeah. I
the
think so.
ordinance
When the aldermen
resolution?
read it, they don't have to go into the actual contract to see that, because typically it's upfront.
Okay.
So it's there. It's just a little bit harder to find. That's all.
I know legal had previously reviewed the contract. I'll work with them to
Yeah.
make sure that the wording is appropriate.
Yeah, I think it's just of where you put the numbers. It's just more visible right in front. That's all.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I had.
I agree. That does need to be in there because that's going to be asked again when you come before us the next time. And does anyone else have a question? I do have a question. Has there been anyone else that you've looked at for this type of work? Has there been any other bidding process, or is there a reason why you choose not to?
Well, I think it was a number of years ago, maybe 2017, I believe the previous airport manager brought this contract forward, and it was not bid because, as I understand it anyway, I know legal looked at it, so I guess I would defer to them as far as their specifics and what they looked at, exactly. But if we shut down and we have to bid this thing, these people need to be qualified and they have to be certified through the FAA. At the time, because it was an untimely death, we need to fill that right away. So I suppose we could do that, but I think we've got a very unique situation where these people really understand our airport, not just any airport. They've got the finance, the wherewithal, the history. There's a lot of institutional knowledge with the airport because this guy's been out there for, like I said, 25 years or so. So to bring somebody else on board, and I think that was somewhat tried by our street department a number of years ago, because I think when it comes to snow removal, people think, oh, it's just like all the other contracts with the city. It's not. We're open 24 hours. You can only have 1 inch of snow on any part of the airport. FAA dictates how fast it's got to be removed. So the company that's there now does a wonderful job. They get accolades all the time. I suppose we could do that, but I just don't recommend it.
I'm not necessarily asking you to do that. I just had wondered if there was a process and had you gone through it. And I think your reasonings are very good, but I also believe, in addition to adding the 424 in there, in the background portion of our text, perhaps we could write something to state that, because as we look at things, we do look for bidding options and and if there's nothing there that shows you haven't done any bidding options, I'm like, well, gosh, why haven't they done any bidding options? So if there's a good legitimate reason, then it just saves us from having to ask the question if it's in the documentation that we look through. Do you guys agree with that, or?
I think maybe, I don't know if Attorney Collins is there, but I know Attorney Veenstra had written a specific paragraph that allowed the city to continue with sort of this service uninterrupted without bidding it. I don't know if that satisfies anybody's questions, but.
Legal counsel, would you like to address this?
Can I make a suggestion when I was walking up
Yeah,
there?
absolutely.
Steve, I would also say, this is going to come up at COW about that. So
Yeah, we're just trying to
Right.
brief you
So,
for
but I would also say is that if between now and COW, we could do a little research to see, like, what DuPage Airport pays for their guy. See, because at the end of the day, if we're in the ballpark, nobody's going to care. But if somebody's doing the same thing at DuPage Airport as doing these other ones for $200,000, we're paying $424, we're going to want to know that. But if somebody says, yeah, it's anywhere from $400 to $450, it's a normal price, and we're in the sweet spot, that will go a long way to saying, and this is what the other reason we may not want to go out and bid, because we're right there with good people. So I think that additional knowledge might be good for us too, if you can figure that out.
Assistant Corporation Counsel Patrick Collins. I don't know what Mr. Veenstra may or may not have written in there in 2017, but I'll ask him.
He didn't write much in the background, and which I'm looking at right now.
I will work with Steve to
explain
edit that,
Yeah,
what we have on
yeah,
there, and get it.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else have any questions?
At Cow, it'll be chef's kiss. Don't worry.
Alderman Seville.
Yes, and just wanted to state that what Steve was saying was correct in terms of the past. This goes back to even to the people before, the son and the father. And I've been on the council for a little while, and I don't know what happened prior to my time, but it was never bid out because of the specific nature of the work that entailed and the safety that needed to occur in order to have a safe airport. And they actually, I don't know if the current vendor lives on site, but the other ones did, the father
Yes.
and the son.
One of his employees lives at one of the houses that
Yeah, okay.
the airport has.
Sure, so it is a specific nature of services that we require, and I'm sure the federal government requires the same, so.
And I don't think we're necessarily questioning his choice, we're just questioning why. You know,
Sure,
if there could
yeah.
be just a little more history in the background, I think it would make a lot more
Sure.
sense. Because I do remember you having this conversation before. Any other
We'll
put
put more meat on the bun.
Put more meat on the bun and serve it up at COW.
Thank you.
Any other questions here? You have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Seville, second by Alderman Franco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. All right, the next item is 25-0317, an ordinance establishing a conditional use plan development and approving the Herd House plan description for the property located at 429 West Downers Place. Hello, Jill.
Good afternoon. Jill Morgan, Senior Planner. Just bringing my stuff up. Okay. All right, so the subject property is currently R5 multifamily dwelling district and is a local landmark. It was built in 1856 for prominent local pharmacist David Hurd, and it's an excellent example of Second Empire. So as a local landmark, it also has preservation regulations. So any exterior changes would require approval by the Preservation Commission. The petitioner is requesting a conditional use plan development on the property to allow it to be developed into a 10-unit apartment building, including 4 one-bedrooms and 6 studios. The details of the request include allowing a slight variation in lot size to allow a minimum lot of 25,500 square feet for 10 units instead of the underlying zoning requirement of 30,000 square feet. As well as increasing the slight increase to lot coverage from 40% to 43%. Parking is to be permitted at a minimum of 1.5 parking spaces per unit. However, if parking is determined to be insufficient by the zoning administrator, the owner shall install additional spaces to meet the standard 2 spaces per unit. Staff worked with the developer. Let me actually bring up. Staff worked with the developer on a potential reuse of the property to ensure this important historic home was repurposed and did not sit vacant. The property was previously a single-room occupancy, if you're not familiar with the property. Staff worked to reduce the proposed number of units originally proposed by developer to 10 individual apartments ranging in size from 490 square feet to 954 square feet, each with a kitchen and bathroom. The developer worked with staff to preserve the historic integrity of the home. The architectural plans are still being finalized. As I mentioned, it will require any exterior changes require approval of the Preservation Commission. So currently, some of what we worked with the developer on, we added an ADA ramp to the side instead of along the front to preserve the historic porch. Here are the elevations that are being proposed. And then let me bring up the floor plan as well. Also, currently, we're still working out all the details, but there's probably going to be a balcony, but we're setting it on the back where it's not visible from the front, as well as preserving the historic character. On the interior, not regulated, but the developer is trying to restore, is keeping the historic staircase and trying to keep as much of the exterior woodwork as possible. The developer has already begun cleaning up the site. If you're familiar with the site, you may have noticed that. So some scrub landscaping has been removed. They repaved the driveway and parking area, and a partial new roof. If you've been by recently, there's the beautiful fence partially removed, but that's in the back just to help with the work that's going on that will be put back along the front. So here you can see the original driveway is being retained as is, one driveway width along. The kind of lighter gray is the existing paving that's recently been repaved. So this will be 16 parking spaces, so that meets that 1 per 5. With the the gray. So we're adding 2 spaces dark gray to make 16 1 per 5. This area here is where we can expand the parking if needed to make up to the 2 units. So there is room to still have a buffer to the adjacent neighbors to do additional parking if needed. Staff experience typically 1.5 for these smaller units seem to be enough parking. So that's why we're allowing it, but still wanting, in case there is an issue in the future, be able to address it. Is there any questions for staff?
Do we have any questions? Alderman Seville.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Great. So you're saying it was a rooming house,
Yes.
but it wasn't an illegal rooming house?
It was somewhat, my understanding is that it was legal to a specific number of units. I think what became illegal was they expanded the number of units. They increased the number of units without approval.
Okay.
But I believe there was originally single room occupancy permitted.
Yeah. Do you know
Was
how
it
long it's been
expansion?
zoned for R5? Is this a 1957 upzoning?
That would be my guess, but I cannot recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, I would imagine so too. This is a beautiful old house, and it has fit well in the Downer Place neighborhood for a long time. My first reaction is to, no, we're doing 10 units in this building. It's so beautiful, you know. So I can understand, you know, what the developer wants to do. I'm just, and I know this is not my word, it's the 4th ward, but I just want to make sure it's the right thing long-term, because we spent so much effort and time downzoning the mistakes of the 1957 upzoning, that we're not reinforcing it and making it more permanent for the neighborhood. And is it really best for the neighborhood? Is it really best for this house? And we know what will happen down the road. So I do have some concerns. The developer has a good reputation in Aurora. Appreciate what he's doing right now in other areas, and wish him well, but I just have some, I just step back for a second when I look at this. So I know you're comfortable with it, Joe, but.
Right, and we did, originally he proposed more. So we were able to get it down to, with even smaller units, to get it down to a number of units where it meets the standard R5, it's something we were trying to do as well. And try to balance that, making it profitable so that it doesn't just sit and, like, because he is taking quite a bit of rehab to do the work. We also thought it has been a single room occupancy, so having several people on, and well, many people on the property is not unusual, and there are some other multifamily in the area. So we did feel that 10 seemed appropriate for this particular instance. I wouldn't necessarily want all the beautiful big buildings becoming 10 units. But.
Yeah. Well, if the situation was different, like say that's had a single family designation, I would hope we would not consider it to be upzoned.
No, this is not wanting to set a precedent that all these big homes should be converted into multiple units. No,
Okay.
It's just kind of a unique situation.
Yeah. Well, I can understand why the developer wants to do this, and I think he'll do a fine job, because, like I say, I think he's got a good reputation. I just step back a little bit when I see this density being now permanently occurring here in this beautiful old house.
Alderman Franco?
So I echo those concerns. I used to live one block over many, many years ago, and I'm just wondering how the neighbors would feel about this. You know, I mean, because it's more of a neighborhood than some of these other things we've done, a little bit closer to downtown. So that's a concern. Is this going to be market rate?
Yes, they are market rate
Okay.
housing.
All right. And then the parking. So if it becomes a problem, I don't even know what that means. What's the trigger going to be to say it is a problem? I mean, 1 car in the street, 2 cars, 10, I mean, what is that? I don't know why we wouldn't just go ahead and make that parking available now.
So I guess, and I don't even know if the developer had an issue with it. I was trying to balance, a lot of people also worried about getting too much parking and asphalt right up to the neighboring property. And then also, like it goes slightly past the house now with the 16. So you're expanding more parking so that as you're going down the street, you see parking beside the house. So I was trying to kind of prevent that additional parking overflow, especially if we don't need it, and typically these smaller units don't need 2 per spaces, to have large asphalt beside the house, just I felt like impacted the visualness of the historic home.
Well, that's a reasonable response. Again, though, I would say, okay, what would have to happen to say now we need it? What type of incident or situation? And then, because we want to know, because after a while we said, well, we don't think we need it based on what? So would you have an example, what you may say, now we need it? Just throw that out there.
I was thinking probably so many calls from the public
Okay.
regarding parking.
Okay.
I did leave it vague, not to give
Right,
something
sure.
specific, because something comes up and then be like, if you get too specific in a condition, be like, well, it doesn't meet that condition. So I was trying to leave it a little vague up to the zoning administrator, but my thought process was like, if you've gotten so many complaints, either to the city, to the alderman, the ward, of parking being an issue, that the zoning administrator has
Right,
that.
and again, like I said, that's reasonable why you're not doing it now. But I think if you take a situation where we're gonna make apartments, and I live in that area, and then parking's a problem on top of that, this is gonna put a bad taste in my mouth. So I think going forward, kind of okay, but we gotta stay on top of that, because we don't want a double whammy, like, I didn't want those apartments there anyway, and they're parking on the street and I don't like it, and then everything is like in an uproar. So I think we have to be very careful of that. So I would be so whatever we do, we better say, if this happens, somebody asks, if this happens, boom, we're gonna go to this thing. And we're gonna have to do it pretty quick, because this is a very unique area. You know, it's a really kind of nice area with nice old homes. We just don't want, like the Alderman said, to kind of screw things up there and go back to where we were before. So I'm just throwing it out there, just a concern. That's all I had, thanks.
Alderman Denell.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. I've been talking about this property for a couple of years. It was owned by a local guy who did bring a lot of guys in that were living room to room. We had the boarding house ordinance, which after that 5-year grandfathered in, then it was time to really do something. And so there's been a lot of discussion on, and the owner tried to do some things, and didn't make sense financially for him to do that. So we're going this direction. I was over there today. I drove back in the parking lot, took a look at it. It looks great. There's been a lot of improvements in not only the building, but the lot. This neighborhood, you're correct. There are the 2 homes right adjacent are big, beautiful homes, but then we have more apartments. Parking is the issue. So when Ed actually called me early on about this, I said, well, just make sure we get at it the right amount of parking. You know, I don't want to come in here and have half of them parking on the street. And again, I have talked to several neighbors. They had Plan Commission last Wednesday, and there were some questions asked about handicap accessibility and parking, and encouraging people to park in the parking lot rather than the street. A lot of folks, and I think the developers said he would pass that along to the folks that we want them to park in the parking spots, and again, staff has said, and the other thing of it was the zoning was there. Alderman Seville and I talked this afternoon. You know, if this had been R1, R2, it'd be a completely different story. But the zoning was there, and unfortunately, this block also has a couple other large vacant homes. The Copley Mansion and the home that was moved a few years back, still vacant. And so I think this adaptive reuse, again, hopefully developers preserving, from what I see, we're preserving the historic character of it. And again, if we don't need to have the additional parking, I agree with Jill. I'd like to look through that yard and not see cars. But I do have a question for staff. I see you have a little bioswale to try to capture the water.
Yes.
Just on the other side of the fence is church I attend, and I know there's some water issues there. Do you know how that's going to drain, or what, you know, what the outfall of that bioswale is, or is that just supposed to go in the ground? In the ground?
I believe it was supposed to go in the ground, but I can follow up with engineering on that.
Good afternoon, Ed Sieben, Planning and Zoning Director. Yes, I believe the intent is that it'll just slowly percolate into the ground at that point.
Well, in my old Park District days, in these type of neighborhoods, we would do French drains where we would dig down several feet, and I think you're gonna hit sand and gravel when you do that. We might wanna talk to engineering that maybe we add that to this bioswale to, because I know there's a lot of surface water many times of the year, and that it encroaches onto the parking lot of the church. Also, there's a lot of trees on that back line. It doesn't look like the bioswale's in the way of that. Are those gonna be preserved?
I believe he's done some clear cutting already of trees and got rid of some scrub trees, and developers certainly can speak on that. I was really thinking that the rest of it probably would remain, that he's
Yeah,
cleared
there's a
it
number of
out.
hackberries in the back, but they're all back towards the fence line.
I believe that's all remaining.
Do we know, and maybe we can ask the developer, what his plan for the back fence row is? Because that's kind of that's a hodgepodge right now at best.
Maybe the developer can come on up and answer the
I
question.
just wanted to follow, right before Fernando speaks, just follow up. Jill was correct. So we've been keeping Alderman Donnell obviously in the loop on this as Fernando has gone through it. The one thing that struck me when we had our first DST meeting, Fernando provided a lot of photos of, I guess they're the before pictures. This interior was in horrible, horrible shape. I mean, the fact people were living in there is pretty amazing. So I think this is a huge improvement to the property. Luckily, the exterior has maintained its integrity, and Fernando's done a good job of kind of fixing that up. I do agree with you on the parking. I think we don't want to overpark. I think most of these units, based on the size, are going to have maybe one car. There might be a couple with two, but I believe Fernando's going to say that they will have assigned parking that they're supposed to park in. So that's another thing. This is R5 from 1957. So, and the other thing is, you know, even though this was built in 1858 as a single family, not many single families have a ballroom on an entire floor. So
Wow.
it's a little unique, you know. So I think that's the reason we're working with him on this adaptive reuse. So.
My name is Fernando Barrera. I'm the developer for this property, 429 West Downer. So the plan with the fence in the front is to refurbish the whole front and either replace or refurbish the back as well. So when obviously we did some site work when we first acquired the property. So we gave initially when I acquired the property, I gave the tenants a few months to relocate, right? So after everybody relocated is when we started doing some site work. There was I think we cut, if I say 100 trees, I think I would not be exaggerating. So we did a lot of site work. You couldn't even see the property from the street. So we did a lot of site work. We ended up there were some leaks, so we decided to take care of the roof. We ended up pulling a permit, replacing the shingles, doing a little bit of site work, shingles, and then some small exterior painting. Now that we were up there and had rented some equipment. So yeah, the plan would be to refurbish the fence, and then the back obviously would be to replace.
So the fence in the front is like a historic iron fence?
Correct.
In the back, there was a wood fence, there was a chain link fence. What is the plan? What would you propose to put in the back?
I think, Joe, we needed an approval from historic, right? So it would most likely be a wood fence,
Has
if
to be
that's
wood.
right. Yeah.
Chain
so-
link's not permitted.
Yeah, so wood fence in the back.
So, and again, I've been watching your progress, and everything's looking great. The dormers up there on the third floor, you were working on those. What exactly were you doing up there? It looked like you might have been replacing some wood.
Yeah, so there were some leaks going in, so we just kind of wanted to remove and just stop the leak for the moment, correct? So, but there's still some work that needs to be done. There's still work that needs to be done to those.
Yeah, and hopefully you can look at that French drain. Normally, the soil profile in this neighborhood, and I don't live too far away, if you dig down 5 feet, you're gonna hit sand and gravel, which would really make that thing work a lot better, maybe help the adjacent problems with the church parking lot.
Gotcha, okay. We'll talk to my architect and engineer.
Thanks.
You
Question?
Finish? Alderwoman Bade.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'm assuming there is no elevator,
Correct.
right? So, can you show us where's the staircase in this?
So the proposed staircase now is back in this little corner here. So the house kind of extends further back. So that would be right here.
And will there be any other emergency egress staircase?
That would be it.
That would be it.
Yes.
And that's shared by everyone.
Yes.
This one is.
Currently, yes, that would be it. I believe it's proposed 3rd floor of the exterior
That's
balcony.
the fire escape?
We're still working that out, whether it be like a fire escape or an actual balcony with replacing the windows with doors.
But the primary is gonna be the center staircase?
Yes.
That remains,
Okay.
the
Yes.
traditional.
And how will they have the garbage disposal?
It's going to be. I think it's on the plan. Right here.
So
Either a small dumpster or like maybe 2 bins.
the Groot truck will be parked on the main street and they will have to come inside and take these trash bins?
Yes, I would assume.
They would pull up to they would go into the driveway.
Okay, they can?
And
Okay.
then just hop out and roll 'em in, correct.
Okay. And rental rates?
These are market rate units, so it's around 1,100,
For the smaller unit.
correct. So like 1,000 for a studio, and 11 to 1,200 for a 1-bed.
Is it almost the same size as the Galena Hotel apartments, the small ones?
Correct.
Okay.
These are
Ex-
larger.
Little bit-
Quite a bit
ex-
larger.
Larger, almost.
So the back unit is 900. That's the one there's only one unit that's going to be over 900 square feet. So that one obviously is going to be a little bit different. But the majorities that are around 400, 500, 11 to 1,200. But the difference between this and the Galena Hotel is this will have independent meters. So electric meters. The hotel, you're getting basically all utilities included in the rent.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Question.
Alderman Franco.
And I was gonna go there with about the rents. So I see in here, the word affordable. Define affordable to me, because when you get $1,100 a month for a 495 square foot apartment, it seems like that's market rate's not affordable. So are we affordable or are we market rate? I just wanna make that distinction, because when we talk about this philosophically in the city of Aurora, we need to know exactly what we're talking about, because we have arguments back and forth, what's affordable, what's not. So I would like to have a clear distinction of what we're talking about here. Is this affordable housing, or is it market rate?
Okay, so it's market rate, and the affordable is used as like a small A affordable. It's affordable compared to, because they're smaller units. So it's bringing additional variety to
Right.
the area.
Okay.
So it gives you a choice, a smaller studio than having to get the 2 or 3 bedroom apartments in the area.
So it's not affordable housing?
It's not affordable
market rate.
housing.
It just happens to be affordable because you're paying per square foot.
Correct.
Okay. I always like to parse those, because I think it's very important going forward, because I think we're gonna have discussions on this, and I wanna know where we stand with some of these things. So the market rate, right at market rate. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Alderman Denell.
When we were talking about the trash dumpsters, made me think, there's a little garage there, appears to be full at this point, but what is your plan for that?
So that's actually going to be converted to a part of a unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we asked all of our questions? Thank you, Fernando. Thank you. Oh, one more question.
Fernando, why so dense?
So so what I do is I look at the square footage of the building and I kind of back into it, right? Run a pro forma, run the cost to build. Now this one, I'm keeping a lot of the historic integrity of the building, right? So like the ceilings, the historic ceilings, they have the designs, the crown molding, the historic doors, the trim, the hardwood flooring. This one is, the bones on this is really great, right? They just don't make them like they used to. Obviously, we have to run new mechanicals, new plumbing. So obviously, the goal is to back into it and see where the numbers end up at the end of the day. and making sure that the size of the units meet the City of Aurora requirements per studio, or if it's a 1-bed or 2-bed, right? So we kind of get the numbers from the city, what the standard size for a studio or 1-bed is, and then basically plug it in to see if we can back into the numbers.
Okay, thank you.
I believe we're done now. Thank
So
you so
moved.
much.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman, are you adding to this, or you next?
I can just briefly, the HUD definition for market rate housing is the prevailing month cost for rental housing set by a landlord without restrictions. And affordable housing is generally defined as housing on which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of their gross income for housing, including utilities.
That adds to the confusion.
Yes, so that's the part of that these are terms of art. So affordable housing is capital A, where affordable housing, the definition of it is based on your income.
Right, okay.
So we don't
Clear
know
as
the
mud.
answer to that.
Clear as mud.
Yeah.
Well,
there's-
it's going to always be an individual basis, depending how much money you make. And that's fine. I just,
Family size,
Yeah.
right.
members,
Right,
who's all
right,
living
right.
there.
Right, but we're gonna have these discussions going forward about affordable housing, so at some point in time, we have to all know what the definitions of this are, so we can make the argument or debate going forward, yea or nay.
But we're never going to know unless we know the family's income, or the size of the family. We have a second by Alderman Donnell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
This item moves forward. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
No. That was a no.
Oh, I am so sorry.
It's okay.
We have 4 yeas and 1 nay. My apologies, Alderman Seville. All right, our next item is 25-0335, an ordinance vacating a portion of the stormwater control easement on the property located at 3011 Lindquist Drive in Will and Kendall County, Aurora, Illinois, 60503.
Good afternoon again. Ed Sieben, Planning and Zoning Director. So this is a request from Crossroads Community Church. So if you look at the aerial there, their property is outlined in blue. This is the property that's north of Wolf's Crossing, west of Lundquist Drive, and just east of Route 30. You can see the gas station down there on the corner. This property is zoned B2 planned development. When this was annexed in and zoned, this was intended to be a potential commercial portion for the church. You see the church main facility is to the east there, east of Lundquist. They do have room to expand. They are also operating in the old farmstead. They do have approval for that as a quote-unquote interim use. So eventually, probably those farmsteads would be removed and this could be developed possibly as a B2 use. The issue at hand is there's a stormwater detention area that's on the Amber Fields property, and that stormwater easement actually comes quite a bit down across the northern portion of Crossroads property. So what they're actually doing is, through some engineering, all that area does not have to be stormwater easement. So what they're doing is reclaiming a section of that. There will still be 30 foot of the north end of their property. We'll still maintain that stormwater easement for the southern portion of this pond. It's kind of a shared pond area. But then the rest of this, when they put it out to market, will be able to be developed. And I do think I have the more formal look. So what they're doing is this northern portion here is where they're reclaiming that. They're vacating the stormwater easement, and then there'll be still 30 foot of it at the north end of their property here. This is where the pond is up here. Any questions?
Do we have any questions?
And this has all been vetted with engineering.
Questions? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderwoman Bade. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The item moves forward. Thank you. Next item is 25-0115, a resolution approving the final plot for Eola Preserve subdivision located at 620 North Eola Road. Hello, Steve. We haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's good to see you all again. My name is Stephen Bravo. I'm planner with the City of Aurora Zoning Division. So we do have the final plat for Yolo Preserve and then the final plan. Did you read them both? 'Cause they're
Oh,
pre-
yes, certainly.
thank you.
25-0116, a resolution approving the final plan for Eola Preserve subdivision located at 620 North Eola Road, for a ROW dwelling 1130 use.
Okay, thank you so much. You bought me some time so I could get everything pulled up. So, as you can see, yes, this is the final plat and the final plan for Eola Preserve subdivision. So I'm sure you all remember this. This came through City Council, BZE, late last year, November, December 2024. So what you can see here is the outline of the property. It's a location of the former radio station, which is being removed with this. So really the scope of the proposal is to develop this 22-acre property into 54-unit townhome subdivision, which is on the east. I'll pull up the final plan in a moment. So it'll be a 54-unit townhome subdivision with accessory stormwater management surrounding kind of the north and western side of the townhomes, and then the remaining area is just open space for wetlands. So here's the final plan. So the portions with the detention and the townhomes that's zoned R4A, the open space wetlands, that's all zoned for the open space. So really what's going on here, and we have representatives, petitioners here who can come up and speak with you, answer any questions you might have in a moment. But really, we just want to emphasize that the final plan is in substantial conformance with the preliminary plat and plan that was previously reviewed and approved, as well as the zoning. So that we did a lot of, the petitioner did a really excellent job of working with the neighbors to really address their concerns, and that is very well reflected in what we see here. In addition to, the city's code requirement zoning, and then also the engineering requirements. So just going through those briefly, you can remember that we did work with them to add a left turn, right turn lane out of, let's see if I can get my thing to change. Left turn, right turn out of Waterstone Drive onto North Eola Road, those with one entrance in. That's to help with some of the access. They added this right turn out onto Old Eola Road, again, to help with flow of traffic. The setbacks are being met. One of the issues was with the townhomes, the units here on the eastern Lot 1 and Lot 2 facing towards the Waterstone subdivision. We worked with them to, the petitioner agreed to not have any habitable attic space on the roof terrace on the outdoor, to address concerns from the neighbors. And then I'll show the landscape plan. The particular thing here was, again, concerns with the neighbors about the, I guess, the separation between the single-family subdivision and this townhome. So the condition that we put on the preliminary plat and plan resolution was really to have 22 canopy tree equivalents. If we were just doing this, without doing this per the zoning code ordinance, I think it would just be 11 CTEs for the buffer yard, which is required between non-single family and single family. If we were just doing that straight without these conversations, it would be 11 CTEs, but we have 22 CTEs, so they went above and beyond what was required as they agreed with the city council. And then I think also added some additional perimeter yard plantings along the same. So the area in question is this northern property line here, and then this eastern property line here, where it's adjacent to the Waterstone subdivision. So it's a mix of evergreen trees and regular canopy trees. So I just wanted to point that out. Other than that, there's it's a 20-lot subdivision. 13 of the lots are being developed for townhomes. 6 are for the open space. When I say open space, I mean the area surrounding the townhome units, open space / detention, and then the wetlands over here are, I think, 1 lot. So other than that, I think that's any questions for staff. We can bring up the petitioner.
Anyone have questions for staff before we? Alderwoman Baker.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Steve, so there is no fence?
Yeah, we opted to go with the
Trees?
The trees, yes.
Okay. And residents were okay with that?
Yeah, they. Yeah, we have Caitlin's here. She can talk more about that, but that's my understanding. And I'm going to. Caitlin has a PowerPoint presentation, but while we're talking, I'm going to pull that up. But were there any other questions for staff?
Anyone else have a question? We'll go ahead with a presentation, would be great.
Yeah, just give me. I meant to pull it up before. I apologize.
I thought,
The presentation that we have in our package.
Yes, it is, Alderman.
We do?
weren't the residents pretty adamant about that
I don't
fence?
see it.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
we
why
don't.
I asked.
Yeah, so just from memory, and you, perhaps you guys have done work beyond that, I just remembered the residents being pretty adamant about that fence, so I'm assuming you'll explain that?
Ed Sieben, I believe that that was conditioned not to do a fence, to do the landscaping in lieu of. That's why we're more than doubling the amount of landscaping as Steve showed. So they did not want a fence, correct? And
Correct. So the
Caitlin.
preliminary ordinance.
Could you go ahead and identify yourself, please?
Sorry, Caitlin Chuck with the law firm Rosenhoff and Whitaker.
Thank
I was
you.
here last fall on behalf of the petitioner Bridge Street Properties when this first came through on preliminary ordinances. So Steve gave a great overview, so I won't give a full-on presentation on this. I'm sure you guys, it's still relatively fresh in your head. But just kind of going back to those approvals. So the approvals that were granted in December were the preliminary plat and plan and a conditional use for a planned unit development comprised of 54 units, 54 townhomes specifically, and a rezoning of the property from from manufacturing to R4 and OS1. So this is the zoning exhibit that reflects what the current zoning is pursuant to those approvals last December. This is pretty much what Steve just went through. So we have the preliminary plat here, final plat here, just establishing that it's substantial conformance with the preliminary plat. Same with the preliminary plan and final plan. Those are both side by side here. Both represent 54 units across 13 buildings. The final plan also represents the increased setback from the north property line, which we agreed to with the residents as well. So that has that increased setback that came up during the preliminary process. With respect to landscaping, Steve gave a great overview as well on that, but one of the conditions that were placed in the ordinance were to either have an 8-foot tall solid fence or to have that increased landscaping of 2 CTEs per 100 feet for an added buffer in this northern corner of the community. To this end, we met with those residents who live immediately adjacent back in February. So it was a really productive meeting. It was a great meeting. We talked about the placement of the trees, the species that would be planted, and just had a really good conversation. So everybody was very happy, I would say, coming out of that meeting. We've shared our landscape plans with Alderman Tolliver. Since those have been updated, we've been diligently working with staff to make sure that that condition is met and that everybody's happy. So at that meeting, we discussed again, is a fence on the table at all? And they said no, they wanted the landscaping. So, I mean, with that, short and sweet, that's all I have for you. Just wanted to come before you and explain the conditions that are
Thank
being
you,
met.
appreciate that. Questions from Alderman Franco?
I would just ask that we get the presentation in our packet.
Yes.
And I would ask in the future, whenever there's a presentation, always put in the packet. We can always not read it, but it's better to have it because sometimes you go in, they want to see that in advance.
We can
So
review it ahead of time.
presentations always, please.
Yes. Sure. Anyone else have questions? Steve, did you have anything further you wanted to add?
No, we had the presentation in the planning commission. I don't know what happened to it, but I'll
Sure.
first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Seville. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion moves forward, 5-0. Thank you so much. And now we'll go back up to the top and 25-02. Oh, excuse me, I got to do both of those separate. I'm gonna back up a minute. 25, we just motioned, and second 25-0115. So moved by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Seville. Then the other one is 25-0116.
So moved.
Motioned by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Seville. All in favor?
Aye.
That item moves forward 5-0. Now we'll go back up to 25-0244, a resolution adopting a 2025 City of Aurora bicycle and pedestrian plan. And thank you for being patient with us.
Chairwoman, Alderman, thank you for your patience. Alex Minella, Senior Planner with the Mayor's Office of Economic Development. Before you, the bicycle pedestrian plan that was previously approved in 2009 with the institution of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee that was formed in 2015. The plan, just by going by the dates, is somewhat outdated. It is our responsibility to keep up with trends, policies, and push and move the city of Aurora forward. With this being said, in 2015, Planning and Zoning Department, under the leadership of the former director, Stephanie Pfeiffer, who you might still remember, some of you, we initiated that discussion, but we immediately realized that a level of sophistication was very much needed. That's the reason why the city in 2023 facilitated a request for qualifications and selected Epstein Global, a very well known firm in the architectural and planning world, as a consultant to carry the load of conducting a study to create to update a new bicycle pedestrian plan. And I'd like to present to you Eric Mueller, working with Epstein, who will provide you a brief overview of the plan before you. They will be also further examined and studied next week, next Tuesday at COW, granted your approval tonight.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, thank you. My name is Eric Mueller. I'm a planner with Epstein, an architecture, engineering, and construction firm out of Chicago. Thank you. And I've had the pleasure of being able to work on this bicycle and pedestrian plan over the past few years for the city of Aurora. Let me just get this. And we're going to do a little bit of an abridged version of this presentation, so focusing more on the actual recommendations.
Yes, because you'll be going through it more thoroughly next week with the
Absolutely.
entire council, so today we'll get,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I just will give you the brief overview. One of the things throughout the first part was doing an existing conditions report and doing a needs assessment for the city of Aurora to determine what areas had the greatest need for improved bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, as well as where is the existing infrastructure. Throughout the public engagement process, we received strong support from residents of the city to improve biking and walking infrastructure throughout Aurora. One of the things I just want to point out is the survey received 722 responses, which is a lot for these surveys that we do. While Aurora is a large city, it's still more than we anticipated to receive on these types of surveys. So it was very encouraging to see a lot of support from the community for this plan and improved biking and walking facilities. Bear with me as I skip forward. So, brief overview, there are 6 on-street types of facilities and 2 off-street that we're recommending. Marked bike routes, neighborhood greenways, bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, protected bike lanes, paved shoulders, side paths, and trails. Some of these are very similar with very little things to differentiate between them, such as a marked bike route. It's usually just signs letting people know that bicyclists ride on the roadway, whereas a neighborhood greenway has the painted shared lane marking on the street. And sometimes it's just kind of a matter of the type of use of the street and what would be best there. But overall, These are the recommendations we are making for the city of Aurora after looking through everything and figuring out how can we make this a more connected network. There is already some pretty decent bicycle infrastructure, such as the Virgil Gilman and the Wabanzi Creek Trail, which I'll be discussing in just a moment. But overall, we're recommending 30 miles of marked bike routes, 14.7 miles of neighborhood greenways, 14.4 miles of bike lanes, 1 mile of buffered bike lane, 9 miles of protected bike lane, 1.7 of paved shoulder, and 64 miles of off-street bike facilities. If you look, it's a 64% increase. There was already about 100 miles, so a lot of these are filling in the gap, continuing what's already there to make it an even better network, but also filling in the gaps that are currently existing and making it difficult for bicyclists to navigate around Aurora and also the region. With that said, I want to highlight one of the projects, which is this is one of the feature project. This is the one we heard the most from residents. This was every single public engagement event, including the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission, including the Planning Commission last week. Several of the members also mentioned this. The Virgil Gilman Trail and the Wabanzi Creek Trail connection, there's a large gap in between them. If you're looking at the map, it's the two off to the sides in the upper left and the upper right, the brown trails. And there's just a big gap in the middle. I believe it's Ogden Avenue's down there, which is just a very busy road. And so we had to figure out what is the best way to connect these two trails. Now, right off the bat, it would make sense to go along the actual creek there. Unfortunately, that property is owned, and I believe the city has never had the ability to talk to the landowner about an easement, so it just made it hard for us to recommend anything there. So we had to get creative, and we played around with a lot of different ideas. And the one we're recommending here really is what we believe, outside of going along the creek, the best option available. And it would connect residents over, I believe that's Hill, through an existing neighborhood, through bike lanes, curb protected bike lanes, as well as off-street side path trail facilities, to then connect up by the hospital. And it's different facilities, but that's just because of the different road types that it's going along. Not every facility is suitable for every road. So it's just making sure that what is the most protected facility we can have, or the safest facility we can have on this road without it within the existing width of the road as well. And so we just felt like this was the best recommendation. It's a little roundabout. We've presented it to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission as well as residents at an open house we had in October of 2023, I believe it was. And there was support from residents as well as the commission for this idea that we've had to connect the two trails. People want to see this trail connected. I think someone cited they've been waiting decades for this to be connected, so it's definitely one that was the most requested, the most talked about, and in our survey, definitely one a lot of people talked about as well. In addition to this featured project, one of the things we're recommending is what's known as universal mobility. So right now in Aurora, there are 760 miles of sidewalk, which is very good. However, we are recommending that wherever sidewalk is feasible, that it should be put in place so that way it is accessible for, especially for people with disabilities, older residents with younger kids. And that would be 279 miles. So that's how many miles of sidewalk are missing within Aurora. We also and we can go over this next week as well, and within the plan, we have some priority areas that we've marked, and that's kind of where we'd say to prioritize putting in the sidewalks. In addition to schools, we typically say within like a quarter or a half mile of schools, that's typically where we'd say to prioritize placing sidewalks to make sure that children have a safe way to walk to school or bike depending on their age.
Can I ask a question now, since we're on sidewalks? Well, I mean, my ward has probably the most non-sidewalk areas. And what I will tell you is there's a severe cost with that, and people don't want them. So how are we going to reconcile all of that going forward? I mean, these are suggestions, but I don't know that they can come to fruition just because of the cost and the people buy their homes because I don't have a sidewalk and they haven't had them since inception because they didn't build them there. So I don't know if there's going to be a recommendation on how to do that or just a recommendation you could use more. I don't know how that's going to work, but it's a tough one there.
No, that definitely is a tough one. When you say the cost, are you talking about the?
In front of a house, it costs about $12,000 to put a sidewalk in, give or take, in front of one normal-sized lot.
What size sidewalk? What, size?
Just a regular size sidewalk. So, we're talking miles and miles, and we're probably talking tens of millions of dollars from and you can see it in my ward over there. So that's why a plan is fine, but I don't know that's a plan that could be executed. So these are things that we'd have to talk about. I didn't know, without getting in too deep into it, if there is suggestions on how to do that.
We do have suggestions on funding within the
Okay.
plan. We have a whole table that recommends different grants that the city is able to go for. Sidewalk I'd have to double check the table, but we have several options such as the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Grant CMAQ from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, which looks at decreasing pollution in the air and better air quality. So sidewalks, active transportation projects will qualify under that. There's also Safe Routes to School, which is actually beginning soon, the grant process. So sidewalks in and around schools, that would cover that. Safe Streets for All, I believe, would also be a part of that one. But we have a whole table full of a bunch of different funding options that the city can look into to apply for, in order to put in the sidewalks.
Will that be part of Tuesday's presentation?
I can include it in there.
I think it would be.
Yeah, I can include the different, it'll just be probably just a bulleted list for you, but I can include those funding sources for you.
I do have a question. I have a question, it's not necessarily for you. Alderman Frankel, you say that some residents don't want a sidewalk, which I understand. I'm sure I have the same. But if it's city property, do they actually have a choice?
Well, no, they wouldn't have a choice because I've already done this around Freeman School where people didn't want a sidewalk. I said, we're putting one in because it's this thing for the kids. And the choice would be SSA to pay for it because I wasn't going to pay for away from the
Sure.
school. So they don't have a choice. But at the end of the day, if we got 80% of the people don't want it, I hate to force it
Sure.
upon them
Sure.
unless we're saying it's around the school. I did that because it was safety.
Yeah.
But if you're far away from the school and you just say, well, people like to walk and the air quality, and they're like, yeah, no. So I don't know. So that's going to be a problem going forward, but we can do it. I mean, I've literally said we're doing it because we could. So that's not
That's a lot of.
technically a
yeah.
problem, but it really could be.
270 miles more of sidewalk is a lot. I'm actually quite shocked.
Yeah, Chair Smith. Yeah, I just want to add that I did the same thing in my ward on Penn Avenue because it was close to Hill School, and between Old Indian Trail and the improved part of Penn Avenue didn't have any improvements at all. So I just put sidewalk on one side of the street, but I was able to do that through CDBG funding.
Okay,
But I haven't done it since because those dollars are so hard.
really expensive, yeah.
To find and allocate.
Are you prepared for questions, or do you have more you'd like to go over today?
I do have some more I can go
Okay.
through if you want
No.
me to, or we can stop and take questions now.
Does
if you'd
anyone
like.
have any questions from this point, or do you want to finish? We'll let him finish his presentation. You
All right, no
continue.
problem.
Thank you.
So, in addition to pedestrian facilities, several types of facilities to increase safety at intersections for pedestrians and bicyclists as well. The types of facilities we recommend throughout, I believe, 33 different intersections: high visibility crosswalks, ADA compliant curb ramps, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, yield stop lines, pedestrian refuge islands, pedestrian bridges, leading pedestrian intervals, which just gives pedestrians about a 3-second head start before traffic is allowed to start going, just to increase the visibility of them entering the roadway. So if someone's turning right, they don't hit them. Pedestrian signals, traffic signals, one pedestrian scramble that I believe is based on rush hour traffic, and hybrid pedestrian beacon as well, which is similar to a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which a pedestrian would push, flashes lights to let automobiles know that they are about to cross the street, but this one's for higher volume roadways.
So these are just suggestions of things that could go in. These are not specific places that you're suggesting them to be.
We do have specific places we recommend them.
All right, let's go back a slide.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that overpass. Now,
Yeah.
pedestrian bridge, okay. A lot of conversation has happened about that. And again, cost. We're looking at cost for that. Do you know specifically where that has been looked at to go?
Yes, I believe, let me pull up the map. I know of one is over Railway. So there is a, if I'm remembering correctly, up along, it's even too small for me to read.
How do you expect us to see
Up
it?
in the upper more right corner, I'd have to look at it again. There is rail where the street kind of cuts off. And there's currently street going over it. So one of the things we'd recommend is like an accompanying pedestrian bridge for pedestrians and cyclists to get over that railway. So that way they can also access the other side.
Say in the top right-hand corner?
Yeah, it should be up in the top right, I believe.
No, Kent, the top one or the one below it?
It's either number 18 or number 4, if you can see the numbers on there.
Yeah, can anybody see that? Do you have a pointer?
Oh, the top
Yeah.
number 4.
Is there a laser on that? I don't think there is.
I can't see those numbers.
You have to look at the Prairie Path and Hankins where it crosses Route 25.
I believe so, yes. I think that was one we also looked at. That's the one that's kind of, they come in at like an
Can you
awkward
see?
angle.
You're young, can you see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yes, that might have also,
Where's 18?
I believe.
yeah, that might have been one where we also recommended a bridge.
That's an 18.
Trying to remember, that one came up a lot, but that one was also, I believe,
Or was that 10?
in unincorporated area, so it was a little harder. Maybe I'm thinking of a different location than your,
Yeah, this is just north of downtown.
oh, okay.
Oh, here we
I'm
go.
thinking of a different
18
location.
looks like
Prairie
right there.
Path comes
Oh,
along the
well,
river.
that's not the
that's
upper
the
right-hand side.
At that
Okay,
point.
Oh,
okay.
maybe that
Yeah,
one.
she set up, he set up.
Okay.
Is this page in our report?
Yes, it is this page, and there's a whole table accompanying
Okay.
with the page,
We
like
should be
directing
able
you
to-
within the report. What page of the report?
We should be able to zero in on that if
The
we,
report or the
Is it,
The
plan?
intersection improvements.
It's within the plan.
I know, but what page?
Probably around 45 to 50. I don't have it off the top of my
I'm
head.
not seeing it.
I
at all.
don't see it in here either.
And the last
It's
one
a
I didn't
different
see
plan.
either. There's a couple slides that you've shown here that I don't have
Yeah.
on the plan.
I
Hmm.
think this is.
I
more
think
updated.
I think we have different than what you're showing us right now.
Okay, because
here.
this definitely should be in the plan document.
Here it is.
Oh,
Would you, and this one?
Oh,
No.
well, it's kind of an intersection improvement.
What about County Road and Bilter?
I think it would be the same title.
Number 6 at the top and 34 below that.
what page?
That
are we?
one,
On
County
page,
Road and Bilter.
38.
38.
Near the outlet mall.
Near the outlet mall? Yeah, so we have a few intersection recommendations over there. I'd have to look at my table again, just to refresh myself on this. I, for some reason, forgot to put it in this presentation.
Okay.
I don't have a page 30. Oh, I do. Yay.
What page?
All right, what numbers were you talking about? 4 and 18? Oh, they're way, that 18 is on the left-hand side, not the right-hand side.
Oh, maybe it's 10 then.
There's a 4 and a
10 is
10.
on deal.
10's on deal, and 4 is, can't tell where that is. You see it, Shweta?
Which page?
38.
Looks like that's Church Road,
Oh, yeah.
number 4 and 5.
It's 34 and 6.
I guess we can look at these closer before,
Well,
yeah.
I'm still not finding some of these in mine, and I've gone through, I actually went to the page that Alderman Seville said it was on, and I don't have it. So-
I didn't think I did, but it popped up. Okay, you can continue. We'll look through this more before Tuesday.
This one here, 2025, right?
Yeah, I think that's the one I put up.
And with that, those are the infrastructure recommendations we're making. The next ones then are policy and programs. Not as always exciting as infrastructure, but always important to have in order to lay the foundation for infrastructure and being able to make sure the infrastructure can be implemented. So with this, we have a bike parking ordinance, which is just kind of setting, and this is really up to the city as well, how they want to do this, but what should bike parking in the city look like? When should it appear? Is there a requirement for developments? And so just making sure it's down much more clear standards to understand what types and where bike parking should go and is needed. Safe systems approach is just a commitment to saying that, hey, people make mistakes. And fixing the way roadways are designed is a very important thing in reducing traffic fatalities and serious injuries. Bike Month declaration, that's the easiest of the policies. Bike Month happens in May every year. And it's a declaration saying, hey, it's National Bike Month, and usually then we'd also say accompany it with different types of activities such as group rides, education that you can do throughout the month to engage the residents, encourage biking, and also teach safe bicycling as well. Age-friendly city policy is a commitment to make transportation networks more accessible for all riders of all ages, especially older adults. The dedicated bicycle and pedestrian coordinator would be a city position where their job is to kind of take what's been made in the plan and make sure that it's being implemented, or if things are being implemented, like they're kind of the go-between between the city and developers and public works, making sure that what's in the plan is being implemented and implemented correctly. Also, gauging the pulse of cyclists within the community, seeing what they want and being able to talk to them and adjust anything if need be. The bicycle liaison in law enforcement is very similar to that coordinator as well, in that they are the go-between between the police and the bicyclists in the community, and just kind of building up that community engagement and positive interactions between bicyclists and police officers as well. And the police officers with the bikes would be able to address concerns to the rest of the police department that bicyclists might have in order just to better make sure everyone is safe on the roadways. In addition, we have several programs. The first would just be free or for rent at a specific cost, loaner locks at public buildings where people can go into the library or city hall and rent out a bike lock. Automated enforcement strategies such as red light cameras or speed enforcement, since it has been shown to reduce dangerous crashes. Safety Town's a fun one. It can actually be operated by park districts. They don't take up much room. I believe it's Elmhurst that has one as well. It's just a small city where kids can ride around on bikes on the streets, learn bike safety rules, and just have a fun time.
Naperville has one of those.
Naperville's the other one, yeah.
Exactly.
And they don't take much room. If you look at an aerial of it, they're very small. Expanding wayfinding signage just to help people find their way around town within Aurora and to know what is in the city and what's worth stopping at. An infrastructure library, and this one's a little bit different, but this would be essentially a library with easily deployable assets like barricades or traffic cones where, let's say a community says, hey, we really want a bike lane here, or we really want to implement some outdoor dining here. Could we test it out? So this is a great way to do pilot programs where the city will go, sure, here are some barricades for this day. Let's put them up, see how traffic does with them, see how people feel about them, and see if what you're asking for actually works here. Outdoor dining in slow streets, just increasing outdoor dining within the city, as well as slow streets, which could be car limited streets or at certain times or for different events. Some streets that are just more pedestrianized for people to enjoy. These are things that became very popular in 2020 during the pandemic. Cycling Without Age is an international program which focuses on providing older adults with biking experiences with specifically designed trishaws. So that way they can't physically bike, but someone can bike them around the town and they can enjoy the joy of biking. Incentivizing local bike shops to sell adaptive bicycles for older adults and bicyclists with disabilities. And again, this is one of those things the city can kind of decide how they'd want to do it. It could be tax incentives, grants, or even marketing support, just to name a few. Smart city bus stops. So digital screens at bus stops to show people where they're at, where they can go. You can include things such as where the nearest bike trails are. Group rides, regularly organized group rides where people can just go out, ride en masse. It could be, hey, every Friday we're going to ride to the farmer's market. I know there are some communities that do that, where they have a night farmer's market ride like once every Friday or every 2 Fridays. And then beginning training classes, just classes to educate, not just young cyclists, it would mostly be that, but people who, maybe even adults who haven't ridden a bike in a while or never rode a bike before, just understanding how to ride a bike and safety, rules of the road, traffic signals, proper helmet fittings, and everything. And just to conclude, one of the things throughout the planning process, residents and visitors within Aurora expressed strong support to improve bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure throughout the city. We are recommending, in total, it's about 71 miles of on-street facilities and 64 miles of off-street facilities, in addition to the 279 of sidewalk. And then we have intersection treatments at 33 different intersections, as well as 11 different programs and 7 different policies in order to complement that infrastructure and make sure it can go in place. But also, once it's in place, that Aurora is a location that people not only just enjoy biking here, but want to come here to bike and walk as well.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to start this one. So yeah, great ideas, great presentation. I'm sitting here in awe of this whole thing, but it feels like there really is no ceiling here. This is like everything you could ever want in the biking world. So I guess this is something that, will have to be talked about and broken down and, see what we're going to want to do. This is a lot. It's a lot of miles. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of great stuff. I wish we could, call Santa Claus and ask him to show up tomorrow and fix this for us. But this was a great presentation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I will say that usually with these planning processes, we don't really put a ceiling on them. And these plans are good for about, I'd say, 10 to 15 years. And we'd be kidding ourselves if we expected everything we recommend to get implemented. But it is a good guideline to go off of, and sometimes some things make it into other plans. In some plans we've worked on, some of the recommendations we made were from other plans and other things that have been recommended in the past that just haven't happened yet. But I think there are a lot of recommendations within this plan that are achievable. And so, yeah, again, it is a high ceiling. I know one of the goals that the city wanted was to be gold standard. For right now, Aurora is bronze certification with the League of American Cyclists. One of the goals was to become gold, and to become gold, you need a lot of infrastructure, in addition to education and policies that support bicycling.
And then my last comment is that will it be, the direct is probably more towards Alex, who will take the directive of this long laundry list to prioritize what we need the most? What we're going to benefit from the most? What is the most important place to start?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question, Chairman. So this is absolutely a multi-departmental approach. So Public Works, of course, on the street doing the legwork, but then it's also complemented by the long-range plan exercise and the zoning exercise on a day-to-day activities, which means at CBEN, Tracy Vasek and their team, our team as well with David Debo doing long-range plans and facilitating new developments. That's when staff asks developers to put in the extra miles of sidewalks, connections, filling the gaps that currently are appreciated in this plan. So we will work on the same level, planning and zoning, and economic development, public works, to tackle these monumental tasks. And the staff liaison with key staff will pursue this.
I get the who. I guess my question was the prioritizing the first step, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to these guys, and we'll see if somebody else can get that answered. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Chair Smith. I just want to commend staff, Alex and Rupa,
This is a great
and
presentation.
whoever else has worked on this, as well as I'm sure
David
your committee.
Anderson.
And you as well. I think this is an excellent report. I think it's setting the gold standards, so to speak, for us. My concern, and I'm not talking to anyone, but I'm concerned about the history of Aurora because we pay for great plans, and they look great, and then something happens and we take our focus off of them, and they end up collecting dust on the shelf. And it's a great plan, and then we just stop implementing it. So my hope is that we can be focused on something like this and move our city forward in every ward. It's not just one or two wards. It's not just the old and the young.
There was
but
only
in the
one
new.
number in my ward.
Pardon
There was
me?
only one number in my ward.
That's right.
To
number
briefly
one.
answer Chairman Smith's question, I would also say that we are in the process of mapping equity and equality throughout the city of Aurora. So those areas will be narrow focused in the implementation of the plan. So that's the lowest hanging fruit. So we'll start from there so that we don't leave anyone behind. And those areas will be ensured that they will be at the same standards as other areas.
Well, I think in part, some areas are already connected. That's why there's not the numbers in those areas, so, yeah.
Yes.
So if I can give you a couple examples of plans, the 1920, and I wasn't around here then,
Oh,
but
here
the
we go.
1929 Ben On Me Freeman Plan, great plan, still relevant today. We never implemented it. You know, we just never did. And I just don't want to see this continue. We have an ability to put in traffic circles from time to time. We only have one in the entire city, one to speak of. And we're not even doing that. And these are the things that we need to start doing, and doing foresightful things, which is what you guys are all about with your committee and with staff and the consultant and like. And I'd like to see this all implemented tomorrow, but unfortunately, we just need a plan to start implementing it a little bit at a time and applying for the grants, as you mentioned. I think that's a great idea too. So, kudos. Yeah.
Alderwoman Bates.
Just a quick question. The sidewalks also have the gravel paths?
I'm sorry, say it again.
The sidewalks, so pedestrian path, they have sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also have gravel paths included in this? Like some areas,
Are
they're,
you referring to like ones where bicyclists can ride
Yeah.
on as well? So that was separated into the bicycle facilities map. So when you look
Okay.
at the pedestrian map, you might notice a gap where there's no color.
Yeah.
That might just be where a side path goes, since it's suitable for both a bicyclist and a pedestrian. We just typically put it with the bicyclist
Okay.
infrastructure as well, because that's
Okay.
usually, since it's being elevated to include bicyclists, that's how it's going to be viewed more. But they're also for pedestrians as well. So 279 miles is just standard sidewalk.
okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
Do we need a motion for this?
I think at this point, this just for information only? Do we need?
This will go to Committee of the
COW.
Whole
Yeah.
on May 6th.
So we don't,
Well, this would be adoption of the plan.
This
we-
would-
so
this
we
is
would
the
motion,
adoption.
so today we'd motion
Correct.
to adopt this plan, which will
Correct.
go forward, okay.
Motion to-
So you made,
yes.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, so we have a motion by Alderwoman Bates, second by Alderman Franco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going to say 4 to, 4 yeas.
4 to 0.
And
We can go
4-0.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
that. We're looking forward to
Appreciate it.
hearing more next
Thank you
week.
for your support.
And at this point, we have no need for a closed
Motion to
session.
adjourn.
And-
Can
yeah.
I just make a statement? Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say thank you to him.
Aw.
This is his last BZNE
Wow,
committee
thank you.
meeting, and just thank you for your,
We're going to miss you, Alderman
Yes.
Donnell. We're going to miss your level head, the fact that you
thorough.
go to every single site before you sit down here, and I often go through Google when I can't get there, but you always go. You know, you're going to be a hard act to follow, but you're definitely going to be missed.
And we
Well,
truly appreciate your
Thank you
leadership.
so much.
Yes.
This has always been one of my favorite committees, so thank you for allowing me to participate on this, and, you know, I'm not going to be a stranger, so
Yeah.
we'll see you all out there.
We have, yes, sir.
Can I say a word or two?
How many words do you need?
Just a couple. I'll be quick.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say, Bill, thank you for your service and all the years that you've worked not only on this committee and but on the city council as well, the last 12, as well as all the efforts you put in the Foxfire Park District and your efforts to improve our community. You've been consistent for as long as I've known you, since the 1980s, and you were a great chair of the Planning Commission for many, many years, and you've applied your knowledge and your expertise to the city council, and it shows across the community. So I wish you and Marge and your family all the best. We're going to miss you.
Thanks very much. I
Definitely gonna
appreciate
miss
that.
it. I have a motion to adjourn by Alderman Franco, or did you, and a second by Alderwoman Bate. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting has been adjourned. Thank you.